This one comes from James. Thank you, James, for tonight's tale. Dear Father Simon, the Forgiving Few, and Novice Nigel, if the story counts as being sufficiently food-based, which it does very, very vaguely. My confession, yes, my confession dates back to the spring of 2015. Different age. Anyway. Electro Velvet had just added to our formidable recent run in the Eurovision Song Contest. Didn't even remember them. No. And Colorado was in the midst of one of its classic late-season storms, dumping inches and feet of snow onto the sagging branches of trees that were now regretting their decision to leave early. You'll gather James is living in America. My 2 young children had a beloved pet hamster called Tyrion. Tyrion hamster. Now this, some people will go, oh, very, very droll. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, because Tyrion Lannister is, of course, a key role there. That's the main man, that's Peter Dinklage, who plays Tyrion Lannister. But
obviously, hamsters in Game of Thrones.
If you don't watch Game of Thrones, then by the time I've explained it, the joke about Tyrion hamster has sort of already waned just a little bit.
Who's Wayne?
Anyway, I had a pet hamster called Tyrion Hamster, who had been easing his way towards a gradual and inevitable decline after a year or two of entertaining us with the capacity of his cheeks and vain attempts to climb the thickly carpeted stairs. Unfortunately for me, on that snowy morning, the stately decline ended rather more abruptly than we had hoped.
Oops.
Turning the sad story into a positive learning experience, though, over breakfast, I broke the news to my kids. By the way, PG certificate on this one. A bit late.
Yeah, a bit late, but never mind.
Where's the culinary bit coming in?
Over breakfast, I broke the news to my kids, explaining how these things happen and that it is important to remember the good times that they all had together, which would act as a fitting memorial. They had other ideas for a memorial, and soon a plan was hatched to create a sort of pet cemetery in a corner of our back garden. Well, with visions of the Stephen King novel, which, if you've read Pet Sematary, is truly terrifying, where you bury your pets and they come back to life in a slightly more scary version. That's just the mild bit.
Okay.
It doesn't look as though Bob is going to be reading this.
I've not seen that.
Hope you know. Anyway, with visions of the Stephen King novel and knowing how diggy some of the wildlife is here, like bears and mountain lions and raccoons, that kind of thing, I didn't think this was a very good idea, and I met the project with some initial trepidation. A suitable cardboard tube was found on our biscuit shelf to act as a biodegradable casket, with the thought that over time the decomposition and the circle of life might benefit one of the nearby trees. Isn't that a lovely thought?
Yes.
And I took the tube outside with the intention of peeling off the product label, and when the snow melted later that day, laying Tyrion to beautiful rest. Lovely. Now, earlier that month, Father Simon, through an expat group, my partner and I had become friends with a well-to-do English couple of a similar age. After a fun evening at a baseball game, we'd invited them to our house for dinner. A week after the eventful morning with my children, the fateful dinner arrived. We had decided to eat outside, enjoying the now warm weather and sunset over the continental divide. We only have 2 seasons here, hot and cold, and in what you would call spring, we flip back and forth between them every few days. Everything was going well until the dessert course, where I noticed to my horror that in all of the exchanging plates and shuttling food from inside and out, a certain forgotten biscuit tube had made its way from a shelf on the window planter to the table. Somehow, I had become distracted a week earlier, and I had forgotten to complete my burial task. Before I could react, our new friend, let's call him Steve, was, tube in hand, peeling off the lid. He glanced inside. Now, it might have been 1, the stench, or 2, the little eyes and claws that were staring straight back. Either way, he gasped, shrieked, and jumped in a most embarrassing way. And then he said these immortal words. Remember, he's well-to-do. Okay. There's a hamster in your hobnobs. Oh, I said, that's okay. It's just Tyrion. He's dead. Oh, well.
Of course.
He replaced the lid. Our eyes met briefly across the table. I made excuses about finding some better cookie options and took the tube inside. I debated explaining to everyone what I had forgotten to do, but decided that admitting to keeping a dead animal outside for a week around the table we were eating on didn't sound much better than whatever he might already have thought. Curiously enough, there were no reciprocal dinner invitations after that night, and what had started as a promising friendship appeared to fade away. I seek forgiveness from Tyrion for leaving him exposed to the elements. My children who'd been putting sesame seeds out and paying their respects to an empty grave. To the expat ex-friends who were probably expecting the worst and calling poison control on their way home. And to my hard-working partner who created a delicious meal and remains unaware of the impact it had upon our guests. Yours sincerely, James. And a note from the producer here. Better warn people if they're about to be eating their food. Okay, well, if you're eating your food, then you might want to... too late. Well, you can see it was, it's tricky, and clearly James was trying to do the right thing. He's very busy, you've got a house of kids, and you think you've done the right thing with the hamster. He just forgot, Bobby Pryor. I don't know how forgiving you're feeling.
Well, the thing is, I can forgive him every single step except the last one. I understand how it happened, and that makes perfect sense. And living out there, of course, you don't want it dug up again, and etc., etc. But when the gentleman found them and said, you've got a hamster in your hobnobs, that was the perfect opportunity to go, that's not what it looks like. Yes, he's dead, but this is what happened. Because it seems to be that you left your dinner guests really confused and a little bit troubled and concerned and maybe not wanting afters, I would be. I was sitting there thinking, OK, something weird's going on here. So no wonder they never came back. So I think, James, you're not forgiven because you should have just explained.
Tyrion Hamster, at least, it was a natural way to finish. They were all trying to do the right thing, but I don't know what Novice is going to make of this.
Well, when Tyrion was discovered, he could have gone, rodent infestation. He then fessed up.
He's dead.
He fessed up, but he could have suggested he didn't know anything about it. That would have been a much better way to go, I think, and then say, oh my God, we've been overrun with mice. I mean, where we are, we have a pet cemetery at home. They're all out the back. The guinea pigs, Ginger, Shaggy, Sleek, and Axe, don't ask, are all out there.
Which was the Axe?
Axe is another one of the...
guinea pig?
Yeah, others were all girls, and my youngest said, no, he's not going to have a girl guinea pig, he's going to have Axe. So Axe is actually a girl buried out there. Could have been Game of Thrones, but they're all buried under very big logs, and that's the key as well, because you don't want foxes digging them up. So you have to...
raccoons in this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I wouldn't want too many raccoons in Hertfordshire. I think the fact that he forgot about it, and then the kids were out there, and then didn't go with the lie either. James, you're confused? So am I, so I'm not forgiving you.
Okay, right. Well, it's all down to Matt, who I think has got 2 votes here.
Yes. So I like this story for 2 reasons. One is it reminds me of that Fawlty Towers episode, the Basil the Rat, where the rat turns up in the Cracker Barrel. But also it had the phrase, there's a hamster in your hobnobs. And that is a phrase I shall now use all the time. It's going to be my favourite euphemism from now on.
But what will it mean?
It can mean anything.
Anything you want.
I couldn't come to the door, I've got a hamster in my hobnobs. So something like that. So yes, I'm going to forgive.
You're walking strangely, yes.